What's that look for?
It's in all the papers.
Hello everyone, my name is Anthony John Agnello, Senior Social Editor at Gamesradar, and I am here with staff writer David Roberts.
Hello everyone.
And you, Dave, just spent the last 50 hours playing and reviewing Final Fantasy 15. It is here, it is a real game.
Yes, it's real. It's here. I played it. It exists. You'll be able to play it soon too.
So, Final Fantasy 15 has been in some form of development over the last 10 years. Was it worth the wait?
Okay, so I'm going to say yes here, if only because, unlike many games which take over a decade to actually come out, Final Fantasy 15 is actually really good. It's been on a long and tumultuous road to release, starting out as Versus 13, changing directors, changing platforms, yada yada. There's really no telling exactly where the previous project ended, and Final Fantasy 15 begins, and we'll probably never really find out. So I tried to approach Final Fantasy 15 not as the transformation of Versus 13, but as its own project, as many will likely come to it without any previous knowledge of its own history. And in that respect, Final Fantasy 15 is well worth your time. It's an open world unlike any other, and even when it stumbles, there's still so much to like here.
So we've covered details about the game's systems in previews, but how does it all feel in the final game? What are you actually doing in the world with all the fighting and the driving and the fishing and bird riding?
So the big thing that ties everything together is this road trip, this sort of blend of Japanese fantasy and science fiction mixed with movies like Stand By Me or The Motorcycle Diaries. You play as Noctis. He's a young, somewhat angsty teen who's trying to come to terms now that he's the king of a kingdom under siege. But he's also got his buddies with him. There's Ignis, the super serious strategist and chef, Gladiolus, the burly Kingsguard, and his best friend Prompto. Together they'll travel Eos looking for ancient weapons and trying to stop the evil Niflheim Empire. But they'll also camp, poke fun at each other, they'll goof around, take pictures, and genuinely enjoy each other's company. It's really refreshing, especially coming off of Final Fantasy 13. The group dynamic actually extends to combat as well, where you have to coordinate attacks with your team in frenetic fights. Even walking around with them is just... it's great. They add so much warmth and humanity to the game. They're easily the most likable and interesting heroes Final Fantasy has had in years.
So, Final Fantasy stories are beloved, but they're not exactly known for their clarity. Does Final Fantasy 15 make sense?
It's total nonsense. It's absurd fantasy nonsense. I mean, in broad strokes it does. There's an evil empire. It's trying to take over your kingdom. You're trying to stop them all while trying to meet up with your betrothed, Lunafreya. Past that, though, the story is kind of a mess. I mean, supplemental characters appear to deliver a few lines and then disappear for hours. The story meanders for a bit when you're exploring the open road. And then the last 10 hours are just this huge lore dump. Part of the problem is Kingsglaive and Brotherhood, the feature-length film and anime series supplementing the story. The background and politics of this world is locked away in those pieces of media, and they're both really good and worth watching, and you don't exactly need them to play Final Fantasy 15, but if you want to make any sense of character motivations beyond this guy is evil, you should make it a point to seek them out. Luckily, the story you make with your bros out in the wild, completing hunts and side quests, chatting with your team, cooking meals, taking pictures, all of that is more than enough to make up for its Final Fantasy-style nonsense.
So, Final Fantasy 15 is touted as being a massive open-world game, but it's apparently only open up to a point. What happens in the final third of Final Fantasy 15 without going into spoilers?
Okay, so the last third or so of Final Fantasy 15 is really where the story goes off the rails. I didn't record any video of this part of the game because it's basically all spoilers, but once you reach a certain point in the story, Final Fantasy 15 drops the open world and even the party-based structure almost entirely for a handful of linear events, one-off battles, and a lengthy dungeon that requires you to basically forget everything you thought you knew about its combat in favor of something so radically different, you'll wonder if it originally belonged in a totally different game. You're able to go back to the open world at rest stops when you like to mop up side quests and explore some more, but it's an inelegant solution. Even when the story makes no sense, though, there's no denying what a gamble its final moments are, keeping you on your toes with a constant barrage of surprises. These final chapters are much darker and more bleak than anything that's come before, testing Noctis and its pals to their very core. I kept thinking back on my time with the bros and my connection with them, and they really are the best video game friends you could ask for. They do so much to provide an anchor for you when you're scrambling for some sort of context. When the lore is zipping past, you don't know what's happening, they guide you through.
Is this the game that redeems Final Fantasy as a series?
Absolutely, without question. Even when Final Fantasy XV embraces the worst narrative excesses, its 4 leads offer a humanity the series has been missing. Plus, it has a world that's as warm as it is bizarre, full of callbacks and secrets off the beaten path, and has some of the most satisfying action RPG combat Square Enix has ever designed. All of these things elevate Final Fantasy XV above its faults, and make it one of the strangest, most magnetic RPGs ever made. If this is the future of Final Fantasy, it's a bright future.
What's your final score?
Okay, so I'm giving Final Fantasy XV a 4.5 out of 5. It's just a delightfully weird thing to exist in and explore. I love it. I really do. I'm going to start a new game as soon as I finish up the last few side quests, and if you know me, you know that I never do that.
Yeah. That is definitely the mark of a good game. If you all want to hear about other good games, make sure to follow us at youtube.com/GamesRadar.